You want to tell me why your cigarette was more important than your men, Lieutenant?
The voice was the kind that made you pause. It was deep, yes, and held this interesting mix of husk and melody, like a song whose notes had been burned around the edges. But it wasn't the sound itself that stopped you. It was its purity, the strength of it, and not the kind of strength men my age pretended to have, all unearned swagger, but actual strength. Calm, clear, honest, unequivocal. It was the voice of someone who didn't lie in bed at night and wish he'd never been born. I turned to face him, already thrown by the sound of that voice, and then I felt completely knocked down by the sight of his face. Dark eyebrows above eyes, such a complicated shade of green that I couldn't decide if they were truly pale or truly dark. A serious mouth and high cheekbones, and a square jaw shadowed by stubble. Given his hyper-fucking-regulation haircut and gleaming boots, I guessed that Colchester was not the kind of man to miss his morning shave. Just the kind of man who couldn't keep a smooth face for more than a few hours. But it was more than his features that struck you. It was his expression, his gaze. He looked to be my age, and yet there was something in his face that seemed older than his years. It wasn't even about age, now that I think about it. It was about time. He looked like a man from a different era, a man who should have been riding horses through thick forests, rescuing damsels and slaying dragons. Noble, heroic, kingly. All of this I thought in an instant, and the next instant I had the sudden, uncomfortable feeling that he had just seen all he needed to know about me, that he'd seen my selfishness and my empty carnality and my dissolute laziness, that he'd seen every night I'd pressed a pillow over my face and wished I had the courage to snuff out my own worthless existence. And I felt a sudden flush of shame for being me, for being Embry Moore, second fucking worthless Lieutenant Embry Moore. And that pissed me off. Who was this pretty asshole to make me feel ashamed of myself? Only I got to make myself feel that way. I took a step closer to him, squaring off so that our chests were only a hand's span apart. With some satisfaction, I realized I had an inch or so on him, although he probably had a good 30 pounds of pure muscle on me. And with even more satisfaction, I realized his uniform had a gold bar on it. A second lieutenant, like me. I found my voice. They weren't my men, Lieutenant.